Welcome back to the channel after 3 long months of just complete radio silence, which I really thought I was gonna upload a video every single week this year. That was one of my goals, which obviously I failed, but I'm back with a quarterly update, also with a kind of life update. Let me tell you a little bit about the shit show that everything has been, and obviously about my languages, what I feel like I've had some pretty good insights over the last few months, and then maybe I want to also touch on what I'm planning on doing with my channel going forward. So, okay, I don't know where we left off. I think the last video I uploaded was the 75 Fluent, like the first week of that or something, and I was still in the US at the time. I am now, new background, I am back in Germany. I'm currently staying with my mom. After I got back to Germany, I immediately got a job. Like, not even 2 weeks later, I started working because I was straining for money pretty bad. At the time, I was staying with my dad. Then my husband came to visit me in Germany, and so now we moved to my mom because she has more space, whatever. And then we traveled around a little bit, and then we went to the polyglot gathering, which was a lot of fun. That was probably the highlight of my year nowadays. New Year's and the polyglot gathering are just, I love those two events. So that is what was going on like a factual level, just things that happened. But then there was a lot of things going on in the background as well, because as you might know, or maybe you don't know, I am still waiting for my visa to move to the US. The process has been ongoing for almost 2 years at this point. I have been waiting a really long time. And originally, the reason I moved back from Japan to Germany was because I thought I was going to have a visa interview pretty soon after moving back. We got the notification in like November-ish, late November. So I was getting ready to move back to Germany in January. But then I was like, let me stay in in Japan for a little longer and then move back to Germany. And I did. And then there was just so many delays. It was delay after delay, and people are incompetent. And if you've ever dealt with bureaucracy, then especially German and Japanese bureaucracy, you might know that if, you might need a form. And then to get that form, you need to call this other person, and this other person is on vacation. So you need this other form to exempt you from that form. But to have this other form, you need something. And it's just this whole, like, if you need one thing and suddenly you're really in it. And that's kind of what happened. So the second step of my immigration process that was supposed to just be over by now, I thought I was going to be in the US now, is still ongoing. So all of that caused a lot of, like, I want to say stress, but not in the sense that, if you're running late and you're going to miss the bus, not that kind of stress, but just like a latent, underlying, but constantly present stress that, because it affects all areas of my life, right? Me being here in Germany, I was considering getting an apartment again, but I thought, okay, I'm just gonna be here for 2 months, so I can just stay with my parents for a little bit. And then now it's way more than 2 months later, and I'm still staying with my parents, which is fine, but like, I could have gotten an apartment. I could have started a full-time job, and life is it just feels kind of stuck. And I can't plan vacations with my friends too far into the future because there is a chance that at some point I'm gonna have to go to that visa interview. And it's really hard to explain. I think it's hard to understand if you haven't been in that situation, but I know all the people that have waited for visas or for any kind of, immigration process. It just takes over your entire life, and it's, at some point, I could deal with it for the first year, but then the past few months have been incredibly stressful for me, and so that kind of robbed me of all my creative energy because I was just working, and then I would spend time with my husband, and then I have all these videos sitting in my backlog, but I just don't feel creative enough to work with them, to make something out of them. I don't feel creative enough to continue working on them or make new videos. So that's kind of where I've been. Now, when it comes to my languages, I feel like something very interesting happened over the last 3 months. As you might remember, I was doing the 75 Fluent Challenge for Korean, and I lasted for a good, I want to say like 6 weeks or something. I wouldn't do things every single day. I wouldn't do all the things that you're supposed to do every single day, but I did them for most days. And I feel like that month really, really helped me improve my Korean from like, oh, I can recognize words and like I understand, like I can recognize the grammar to, oh, I can actually use these words and sentences now. I can build things and say things. Obviously, still at a pretty low beginner level, but you know, it's better than it was before. Like those 6 weeks really helped me. But then, you know, as I just said, there was a lot going on. And then I realized that Korean is like really time intensive. And I remember that from Japanese. Obviously, I learned Japanese at university. I studied a lot of hours every day. And I realized that I just don't have that time right now. There are so many other things going on in my life, so many other projects that I want to work on, so many things that, you know, just keep me busy in other ways. My work is, I feel like, very time consuming, but I enjoy my work, so that's a plus. But then I just don't have the time to be sitting there for like an hour and a half every single day and do all these things to keep improving my Korean, because I genuinely believe that that is what it would take to actually get better or to reach a level that I want to reach. So I decided, you know, I'm gonna just shelf Korean. There's no way I have time or energy right now to actually go through with that extensive of a study routine. And then, as every year, whenever the polyglot gathering approaches, I started learning a little bit of Spanish again, just the tiniest little bit. But then at the gathering, I would go up to people. There's these language tables where you can practice your languages. I would just find myself at the Spanish table and I had a conversation. And it wasn't good. It was very broken. I could understand what the other person is saying, but I couldn't really say anything. But then I realized that there's still so much more for me to learn, that I could get so good at Spanish in such a shorter amount of time than I would for Korean. And then I figured, you know, like it is time. I'm moving to California. There are a lot of Spanish speakers there. There's a non-zero chance that I might have opportunities to work either in Spanish or with Spanish speaking people. So I figured, why not take this time now that, you know, not learning Korean anymore freed up a lot of time, not learning Japanese anymore freed up a lot of time. Why not fill that time with Spanish? And that decision wasn't made in a vacuum. There's kind of something that goes hand in hand with that that I do not want to share at this point, but I will in the future. But so I now have a reason to actually study Spanish, because before I didn't really have one, right? The only time I would ever study it was because I needed credits for university and because I was going to the polyglot gathering and I knew there's a lot of Spanish speakers there. But now moving to the US is so imminent. I already got my interview date. So that is really exciting. After all this long waiting time, I'm finally gonna actually get my visa, maybe. So then, now that I have a more or less concrete timeline and the 75 Fluent Challenge just started its next round, I'm going to use this time to just fill it with Spanish. And so far, I've been really happy. I read 4 of the Magic Treehouse books so far in the last like 2 months, which, you know, they're pretty easy, but they're fun. And I've been watching videos. I still understand so much. I'm using Migaku to kind of sentence mine a little bit, even though at this point I'm just trying to get my ears used to listening to Spanish again. And I will see what else I'll be doing over the next 75 days to improve my Spanish. For anyone that is wondering what's happening to my Dutch, that is still ongoing, but very much in the background. I just, you know, occasionally I chat with people, I will talk to myself, I still watch videos, but it's just not as much of a focus anymore, because I feel like I have reached a point where I can express what I want to say, still not in the way that I want to, like how I want to say things, but I feel like it's just going to be a longer term thing for me to keep working on that once or twice a week or something, and then I'm still gonna have to look into tutoring at some point. But again, with so many things going on in my life, me moving to the US, hopefully within the next quarter, I just don't, there's, you know, there's so many things going on. I can't really say that I'm going to do this and then actually do it. It's just not realistic. This quarter, I'm just going to try to do as much Spanish as I can. And if that's reading a chapter a day, then that's it. And if I can do more than that, then that's great. And then finally, for the future of my channel, I'm not really sure where to go from here because, every few quarters, I don't know, like once or twice a year, I just want to do a complete revamp of whatever I'm doing. I'm like, I'm gonna do only vlogs now. And then I do that. And then I'm like, I actually don't like just doing vlogs. Then I'll be like, oh, I really like my linguistic analyses. And then I do that. But then they are so time intensive because of the scripting and the researching and the, connecting ideas and trying to make them digestible. And then I'm like, wait, I actually do want to make more than like one video every 2 months because I genuinely like making videos when I have the mental space to do them. But then I'm like, oh, then let me do this and this. And it's just, I'm all over the place. I'm aware of that. But at the same time, I'm not sure how much I mind and if I'm not just going to continue doing that. But I definitely do want to do more because I noticed that I actually like going back to my old videos and watching them. I think I'm gonna try to do more vlogs and I'll try to have them language themed or like kind of, language culture themed, especially with me moving to the US now. I think this process is gonna be super interesting. I'm not sure how much you guys care, but I want to look back on those videos in like 5 years and be like, wow, this time was so stressful. This time was, this went on and this, and to just see how I navigated all of that and how I thought about things and how that changes, that's going to be really interesting for me. So the only real question I have for you is, would it be interesting for you if I like had language advice videos of some sort of like language routine, language whatever, turned into vlogs? Or would you prefer I keep, the sit down style videos where I just talk and have some random B-roll and that's it? Because I feel like vlogs combined with like educational slash inspirational, whatever it is, content could be really interesting. I'm not going to be good at it because I don't do a lot of vlogs. But I think I have a vision. You know what I mean? So now you're all up to date with what I've been doing, where I've been, how things are going with me. Don't see this video as me saying, hey, I'm back to making videos regularly because a lot of things are coming up in my life. I don't think I'll have the time. I feel better now that I know that I'll be in the US within the next quarter, but I don't think I'll have time because I'll be, moving internationally. That is quite the task. So I still have, as I said, I still have a backlog of some videos that I filmed a few months ago that I want to work on slowly. So just know that the next few videos you'll see are way pre-recorded, like in the way past. But then starting in sometime the next quarter, I hopefully can start making new videos again. And then I guess we'll see how things go from there. In case you miss me in any way, I have started to post more on Instagram, just like fun little quirky things, a little bit about the immigration process and so on. So if you care about that, you can hop over on Instagram. I might upload them as shorts too at some point if I can figure out how to do that. If not, then I guess I'll see you when I see you in the future. And then I'll be fluent in Spanish at some point in the future. Bye.